All right, so then you need to remove this section of the intake housing. It's basically air cleaner tube, I guess, induction tube. You got a hose clamp here, which is an 8mm, and you got a hose clamp there, it's an 8mm, and you got a 1/2-inch hose right here. Remove the clamp off of it, pull the hose off of it. If it's not coming, use a screwdriver, help pry it off. Wiggle the whole housing, pull it off the throttle body. Same thing with the air cleaner upper tube. Get that off. And there's 2 fasteners in the back. Pull the whole thing off of it. This is what they look like. It goes into there. 2 grommets. Take this thing, put it off to the side. Take off the upper engine cover. Remove the oil cap to the side, and there's 3 more of those fasteners on each corner. Pull them up, pull the whole thing off. Okay, put your oil cap back on. If you're going to change your air filter, you need to remove the 4 screws that hold the upper housing on for the filter, and remove your mass airflow connector. You might have to push the gray piece off the connector, the retainer, so you can push in on it and pull it off. Once you got it off, then you can replace your filter. All right, next you need to do is remove the air intake, not the air intake, but the air filter housing. Got the 2 10mm bolts, one here and one there. Remove those 2. And then over here is just another one of these. It goes into a little stud sticking out, so you can pick this up and pull it off of there. And there it is, and somebody did it wrong, so I have to fix that. And next you want to remove this bracket. 2 13mm nuts, one here and one there. They're on the bottom of it, so you have to get to them from here. And they go on that stud and that stud. And there's a washer underneath them, so you want to pull them off also. Okay? Next you want to remove the heat shield. 13mm deeps. One there, which ended up being a 12 because it rusted away. Put some penetrant on it. And one over here, and one over here. So, now you got that up. And pull that out. All right, next you want to unplug your O2 sensor. Goes all the way down there where the blue plastic piece is, that retainer for the O2 sensor connector. So unplug it. And then next you can do is, you're gonna have to do is raise it up and remove the 3 exhaust bolts on the flange. And then you can remove your exhaust manifold. And those are all basically right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 over here. Okay, pretty sure. All right, you have to raise it up for this. All right, there's 2 of them, and one's on the other side to the right farther. You need to heat them up. If you got MAP gas or equivalent, that's good. If you got acetylene torch, it's even better. So you need to get them nuts glowing red hot, and as close as you can. And those are 15, and who knows, they might be rusted to something smaller than that. All right, I got my flange nuts off. Now to remove my exhaust manifold nuts. I'm pretty sure they are 13s. Been a while. Well, there's 10 of them. Over here is where it gets you. All right, but there's 10 of them. Some of the studs come with them, but whatever. Okay, and then you just pull the whole thing out and check for cracks. Since you got it off, if there's any cracks in it, now's the time to replace it. All right, next we're going to have to get access to that little front cover. So we can put our little special tool in there that holds the gear in place, because the water pump is driven off of the timing chain gear. All right, so I want to remove the 2 nuts off the front engine mount. And then we're gonna jack the engine up. If you jack it up with a jack, make sure you put a piece of wood on your jacks, just so the jack doesn't poke a hole in your aluminum pan. All right. So you need to jack it up so you can get a little bit better access to the 4 little 10mm head screws, and remove that cover, and then put your tool in there. They're saying this is the tool to use for that. Okay. On the earlier models, I had to use this tool, which is, I think I used it 2 times in my whole life. All right. I also removed the mount. These are 15s, okay? I removed the cover with the 4 10s, okay? You don't really gain that much more room. You only lift it up maybe a 1/2 inch, but there isn't no opening down there to get to it. So now there's the opening that we're gonna get to. Got to remove the bolts on the front of it. Okay. At least you can get to it. What you need to do is get yourself a mirror, shine the mirror down in there so you can get an idea of what's going on inside there. Okay, there's 3 bolts that hold the gear onto the pump. Okay. What I did was, and they're 10mm, so what I did was I just broke them loose. You don't even need to do that because they're not even tight. So anyway, figure out where the holes are in the gear so you can put the tool in there and thread them into it. Okay? These thread into the holes on the gear. And then you access this hole to get to one of the bolts, and then you get the other 2 bolts off. All right? Okay, my tool is in there, and I snugged it up. I used a 1/4 inch ratchet with a 10mm on it. So I tightened them up. Now I can remove my water pump bolts out of the gear. Here's the bolts. Make sure you got a little magnet ready, a little angle on it, because I don't know if they have enough room to fall down in there or not, so be careful. Okay, if you're doing this job and you got this tool, I do not recommend using it. It's too sloppy, and when you do bolt it in there, it's totally on the bottom. If you do have it and that's all you got, I'd bolt it on the top, okay? Okay, that's what I would do. That's what I should have done. I used it on the bottom, and that allowed the cam gear to come off and not be able to be lined up with my water pump. I don't recommend this one. I recommend that one. It's a lot better and more secure. Plus it's deeper. Okay? And it will actually touch the gear. All right, but if you're gonna use this one, use it on the top, because And make sure you put your bolts in there to retain it from the cover. All right. If you do run into a problem, you couldn't get it, the chain gear into the water pump, then you have to take this cover off. In order to take the cover off, you got to take the upper engine mount bracket off at the 218s, take your belt off, take your tensioner off, take your harmonic balancer off. That's a 21 millimeter. It's on there pretty tight. Don't need a puller. It just slides right off because it drives the oil pump. Okay. And then you can remove your 13, loosen that one up so it's loose in there. Remove all your 10s. It goes all the way around. Drop the engine down, and you can pull this bolt out. When you go on back together, make sure you put that bolt back in there before you raise the engine. You'll never get it in there. Okay, so now this is bonded on there pretty good. You want to come over here and you want to get like an angled pry bar, pry it up. Do it very carefully. Work it off slowly. Okay, if you need to remove the chain, fix anything with it, and you want to see what it looks like. There's the water pump gear. There's the chain for it. There's the tensioner. Got 2 10s. You can remove those 2 10s, pull the tensioner out, and then you can walk the, if the gear's loose, you can pull the chain right off the gear, and then you can put the gear onto the water pump, tighten it up, and snug it up, put your chain back up in there. And then I recommend getting a new tensioner for the chain. That way it's already pre-tensioned with the little pull pin. You pull a little pin out when it's in here, and it's all set. This one's kind of old and it pushes in a little bit. I don't like it, but there's no alignment on this chain. Not like the timing chain over here that runs up to the cams. This one's more critical. This one isn't. All right, so that's what it looks like. So when you're going back together, put them all back together. Put all your bolts in, put your big bolt in. It goes through this hole. And make sure you tighten them up properly, evenly. And put your harmonic balancer on. Harmonic balancer drives the oil pump. So you got to be careful about that because it should just slide right in.